Hey guys, welcome to my second ever project. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I turned these really cool pants to this equally cool and awesome ensemble. Awesome mostly because I made them with my two hands, and honestly, if I had bigger boobs, I would have bodied this outfit, but I don't, so it's whatever. Anyway, I start by measuring what length of shorts I would like to have, and I mark that length in 4 different spots. In my case, I wanted 14-inch long shorts, so I measured about 15 inches for seam allowance and stuff. I draw a line across the spots that I have marked, and I go right ahead to cut out the excess material at the bottom. Keep in mind that I will be using the leg pants for my top and my sleeves. So these pants actually come with an elastic band in the waist area, and here I am trying to get it out. At first I thought it would be an easy pull, like I genuinely thought it was child's play and this would be beans, but as you can see, it proved to be a difficult task. This literally took me up to 30 minutes. Although I struggled and I struggled and I wept and I wept and I started having real life regrets about my desire for this freaking band, I eventually tore through those seams like the victorious bitch that I am and came out a conqueror. After tearing through those seams and giving myself several pats on the back, I pulled on the loose threads on all the stuff I had just cut, and I made a mess. This particular material is super light and sheds like crazy, and I really could not believe my eyes on all the crap I had pulled. I made sure to be careful though, not to pull on the material itself, and I gave my band hair a trimming. I was really only trying to get rid of the threads and not cut the actual material. Once all of it was nicely trimmed and clean, I set my cloth and band and shorts away to be revised later. Remember this elastic band that I had worked so hard for? It's about to show me its worth. I know I want exactly 3 pieces, so I don't even bother measuring, to be honest. I just cut it into 3 pieces. I intend to use each piece, one for my sleeves and the other 2 pieces for my top, and perfection, it worked. Moving on, I'm using one of my pants legs for the top of my outfit, and as you can see here, it comes with a slit on the corners, so I'm going to start taking the material apart from that end. I'm using a razor blade like I did with the elastic band, but I mean if you have a less ghetto, safer option, you should probably opt for that. I'm going to use this on either side of the pant legs, cut through the threads like a pro, until I have 2 separate cloths cut from the same cloth. Once I have 2 separate cloths, I trim them on the sides just to get rid of the excess threads. Even though you will soon learn as we go that it's all useless effort. I mean, the material just bleeds thread. It's actually frustrating. Once that's done, I place each material on top of each other. At this point, it didn't matter if it was front facing front or back facing back, seeing as I was just prepping for cutting. I'm making sure that the corners are straight and lined up before I use some of my solid pins to hold my edges in place so I can begin cutting. Once I start cutting, my only goal is to cut equal rectangles on each cloth. But now that I look back, I realize I probably would have been better off working with some measurements. But that's okay, it still worked out. As you can see, I ended up with 2 almost perfect rectangles, and that was more than enough for me. I'm pinning down the edges of one side, but I'm not quite done with the other side. I still have to cut out the thick portion of the pant legs at the bottom, which I'll be using later on in the project for my shorts. So I'm actually going to set those aside for later. Once that's all dealt with, I have a perfect rectangle pinned on either side and ready to be stitched for the gods. While I was stitching this, I was folding the ends in before stitching. My real desire was to do anything at all that would help me with those loosening threads, so I decided to fold and stitch, and I think it worked. Once both sides have been sewn, I'm leaving the cloth turned inside out and folding it at the top part and bottom part of the blouse to be. I'm doing this at the front and at the back of the blouse. The idea here is to form a tube-like entrance for my elastic bands, which I will be inserting through the hole at some point. So I'm just pinning down the blouse and securing the area so that sewing is easier for me. Once that's done, I take it to my sewing machine and we sew away. As you can see, I'm being really careful here, or at least I'm trying to be, and I'm sewing away from the edges so that I have enough space to form that tube-like hole I'm going for. Anyway, I'm single stitching here and I'm doing it for both ends of my top, but I'm not sewing the tube all the way around. I'm going to leave a small part unstitched, and that part will serve as an entry point for my elastic band. If I sound extra technical, my bad. I'm really just trying to balance being clear and not sounding like a robot. I'm sure you get the gist, but if you don't, leave me a comment in the comment section. Also, don't forget to backstitch at the end and at the beginning of your stitching. I learned this the hard way and it really wasn't cute. So that's the end product of my work. For those of you who are new to the channel, you should know that I'm not a seamstress or anything, and I'm actually learning how to sew, so this is impressive. Anyway, I'm going to use that small part that I left unstitched to insert my elastic band, and I'm just going to guide that elastic band with a bobby pin. This method is goals and literally saved my life. Usually you want to make sure that the other side of your elastic band is secure, but I wasn't too worried, to be honest, and I was just keeping an eye on it. I just kept pushing my pin through and pulling on the cloth to make sure that the elastic band traveled through the tube. It's a bit tasking, but not really, only tasking if you're lazy and easily bored like I am. Once I was done inserting the band, I brought both ends to marry and made it official with the thread and the needle, and I was so relieved because the journey was long but well worth the wait. Now I can stitch the hole in my fabric knowing that my elastic band is safely in and secured. Moving on to the second pant leg, which I have not forgotten about, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the first one. I'm going to take it apart, de-thread it, trim it, make it look somewhat presentable, de-thread some more, and make it work for me by force. I'm going to go ahead and cut my equal rectangles on both sides and make sure that my material is straight. As you can see, at some point I had to use a ruler to draw a straight line because I needed the guidance man. I was out here cutting like I was dodging bullets and it was not cute at all. I was so embarrassed of myself. Once I was done cutting, I separated each cloth, which will be used for each sleeve. Similar to the top I already made, I'm going to be inserting an elastic through the tube. And I initially thought I would just fold over the edges once and sew away, but then I realized I needed to deal with the loosening threads on this material. So I decided to fold twice instead. The first fold was small and stitched to somewhat perfection, as you can see, and the second fold was bigger, and that would serve as my tube for my elastic. So just stitch away or do what works for you, but this is what worked for me. I tried to zigzag stitch the bottom of my sleeves and it was the ghetto. And while it's much easier to tell myself to stick to what I know, I'm going to keep trying in the future to get it right. For the arms, I'm just using the third elastic piece and measuring around my arm to get the right fit. Once I have that, I'm going to cut the exact amount I need and prepare to stitch it through my tube. This time, the elastic is much smaller than the first or second time, so I'm using a pin to hold the other end of the elastic so I don't lose it in the tube. It's pretty much what I've done already. Once it's all in, stitch the other end of the sleeves closed.
The other end. So I'm just going to keep pushing all the way through. I'm going to come to the very end, and this one is still there, which is perfection. We're going to pin it together, and then we will sew it.
You should have something that looks like this. Also, forgive my poor videography, I'll do better next time. Right now I can work on the shorts and I'm so excited. I have what would be the back of my shorts actually facing me, and I'm going to connect my cloth band to the area it was initially sewn to. To make the sewing easier, I'm going to go all around and pin the shorts to the band first, and honestly hope for the best because I'm not expecting the straightest stitch from this. And now my video is completely cut off. Honestly, if you're annoyed at this point, I understand. I'm right there with you. I'm annoying. After pinning, and once I feel confident enough, I'm going to stitch my band to my shorts and make my way all around until it's all sewn and ready to be rocked. Again, I'm being really careful here and taking my time. I also end up stitching the bottom of my shorts off camera. Remember those scraps I got from the pant legs? I sewed them together to form this really rough looking long rope for my shorts, and while I understand it ain't pretty, it was really all I had left, so it would have to do. I'm going to make a small hole in my shorts and insert the rope through my cloth band, which has been securely sewn to the shorts. Fun fact, I accidentally recorded this part of the video in slow motion, so what you're seeing now is the video at 4 times speed. It's wild, I know. And there you have it, guys. This is the final product of the entire ensemble. It's really cute, really free, and I'm practically floating in it. I think a smaller size would do me better, but you know what? It's okay. It works for me, and if I do get bored of it, I can just pass it on to someone else.